We have joining us on the program now from the Winnipeg Ice, Conor Geekie is our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Conor, good morning. Thanks so much for doing this. How are things?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Hey, we're doing well. Fine and dandy. We appreciate you joining us on this Saturday morning. Obviously, a big game coming up later tonight against the Regina Pats. And Conor, I was just saying to the guys, I wanted to ask you, 19-1. I mean, it's an incredible mark, and I'm sure you've been asked about it over and over again. But when you have that record and you've won 10 in a row, more than 10 in a row, 14 in a row, does it begin to, like, how do you sort of handle that kind of success over and over and over again and not let maybe bad habits creep in to the team's game?
Yeah, I think, it's a little different, right? Because, not too many times you get to win 14 games in a row. I think it's something pretty special, but I think it's a good thing, right? We stay pretty close to the system when it comes down to things. We make sure we're working hard and we're always doing the right thing. But I think for the most part, the best thing about our team is that, whether we're down, we're not out. I think, we have a lot of trust in our depth and our guys, that we're going to score and we're going to, find a way to kind of pull through for a win.
Conor, you guys are obviously back home now. Big win over Regina. Another game against the Pats coming up tonight. But we got to go back to the road trip. I don't know if you want to go back to the road trip because I'm sure you're happy to be in our beautiful province again. But I mean, what was that like? Because obviously you guys are used to going on road trips and being on the road. But I imagine most of the guys on the team have never been on a road trip that long. So just what was that like? Like, I'm sure that you guys did a lot of bonding and you guys had a great time, but just what was that like? Because that was so much longer than your typical road trip.
Yeah, no, it was pretty crazy. I think, you got to know a lot of the guys, inside and out. I think, the cool thing was just, how kind of everything went about, right? Going on a road trip like that and being able to win every game, except for one. I think that was pretty cool for our team. But, let's say the bus rides were long. You grow some hatred through some NHL games through some guys or, where they're playing on the phone or cards or whatever it is. I think, again, you grow a lot of bonds, and I think it's just a cool experience for those young guys. So, when it comes down to it, maybe next year and 2 years from now when they have to do the U.S. road trip or, maybe a trip to Brandon isn't so long or a trip to PA, I think it just shortens everything up a little bit.
Conor, what's it like having the entire city or the entire town of Strathclair behind you when you have, a very small population? I think it's about 700 people or so in the town, but you have them all behind you and obviously your brother Morgan.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The municipality is about 700, but I think the town's probably like 150, like in the actual town. So, no, again, it's a lot of fun. I think, me and my brothers don't take it for granted at all. We all wear shirts like Strathclair is home and stuff like that. I think it's really important to us. And I think it's something pretty cool when you get to drive home and, you see the old barn that you grew up in, like the literal barn. And, there's only one street and, you're waving to everyone and everyone kind of knows that you're back in town. So, even my neighbors, sometimes watch the game. So it's something that I'll never take for granted and always kind of cherish.
You mentioned your brothers, of course, and your brother Morgan is playing, in the NHL. How much, how often are you sort of communicating with him and sort of, maybe leaning on him for some of the advice? He's, obviously a couple of years older than you, been through sort of some of this a little bit more, a little bit more than you. How do you rely on your brother maybe to go through the season and the success and sort of use him as a sounding board?
Yeah, I think, for sure, I kind of use my whole family for resources, I would say. Kind of in that way. We have a family group chat that's, always flying with some chirps or, some advice or whatever it is. But no, for sure, Morgan has been a big part in kind of what I do. And, watching him grow up and play hockey, him and Noah just letting me play with their friends is something too, right? That's kind of maybe why I'm so competitive or, trying to make my mark. So, I think it's something pretty special what he does, and how he kind of does things around. Sometimes you can't even tell he's a hockey player. He's just one of those guys that, he's super humble, super kind of to himself, and that's kind of something that I try and take from him the most, I would say.
And we got to mention Morgan stats: 4 goals, 8 points with the Kraken. The Kraken off to a good start the season, so we got to get that in there. And I wanted to ask you, Conor, about, I know it's a little while ago and your focus right now is on the ice, obviously, but are you able to just take us back to your experience with the Coyotes training camp? Obviously, first round pick. Just, what was that like? Just the overall experience for you?
Yeah, it was cool. They're a super good organization. They took care of me pretty well up there. I was there for, I think, 2 months in the summer, 3 months in the summer, and stayed there for rookie camp and training camp and stuff like that. But all the guys are great, right? They brought me in, like I've been there for a little while, and it's pretty special when you get to go through things like that. And the games were a lot faster paced, but I really enjoyed it. It was more to my play style, I guess you could say. And, I had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs along the way too. So, I'll never forget your first training camp, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Conor Geekie of the Winnipeg Ice is our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show Saturday morning. We're live on YouTube. We're live on all of our social media platforms. The Winnipeg Ice in action later tonight against the Regina Pats at Wayne Fleming Arena.
Conor, speaking of the Coyotes, how often, I know you're focused on the ice and what you're doing here, but how often do you hear from them, and do they communicate regularly, just touching base with you, finding out, about training, that sort of thing?
Yeah, for sure. I think, they try and come out like once a month. Whoever it is, whether it's a skills coach or skating coach, nutritionist, all those kind of people. So, they're super good with always keeping in touch and always wanting me to get better. I think that's something that that's kind of their motto is, always, 1% better every day. And I think, I try and take that into my everyday life, right? Whether it's, making your bed or whatever it may be. I think it's something that you can really, use kind of outside of hockey, but especially in hockey as well. So
hang on, you're just telling me that all my reason for lack of success at the hockey is that I didn't make my bed, so that I can go back and I can start. That's going to be the tipping point of my career now, there, Conor.
You can ask my mom. I didn't make my bed either, so I think you're out of luck.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Drew, because I always make my daughter's 4.5, and I make her bed, and I always give my wife a hard time when she doesn't make her bed, because when I was growing up, my dad always said, you got to make your bed, right? So
100%.
Let me ask you, Conor, obviously, last year you were drafted, or this past offseason you were drafted. You had a great year last year with the Ice. This year, how does your approach change, if at all, between the year that you're draft eligible and then the year after when you've already been drafted?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it changed a whole lot. Obviously I'm, super excited that I got drafted and, all that good stuff. But when you come down to it, I'm kind of just trying to learn from last year, losing to Edmonton like that, and kind of seeing how they went through it. I think it's something for our team and kind of what we want to do, that, we want to get to that next level. We want to make it to the Memorial Cup. We want to, bring something back in here to Winnipeg. So I think that's kind of where it changes the most is, what we got to do to be able to get to that point and, obviously win a championship with this team.
Conor, I got to ask you about Matthew Savoy, because I thought it was funny. Everybody knows Connor Bedard is going to most likely go first overall in the 2023 NHL draft, but your good friend Matthew Savoy scored 3 goals and 6 points in that game, and I thought that was funny that everybody was talking about Connor Bedard. I get it, but can you just talk about, I know he missed a few games, but can you just talk about, your close relationship? You guys were a couple picks away in the most recent NHL draft, but just how impressive he has been, and that 6-point performance against the Pats. I can't give that enough shout outs, because he was incredible in that game.
Yeah, no, he's a special type of player. You don't always see someone like Sav come across your table every day. Honestly, once in a blue moon. We're pretty close. We're really good friends. The draft was a pretty cool experience, sitting right beside each other, kind of going through it. I'd say we're pretty, I'd say we're best friends at this point, going through all that good stuff. And like I said, he's a special player. He does something special with the puck every night. And, he he always has a highlight reel play, whether he finishes it or not. He always does something that makes me awe too. So.
Connor, one of the things you have to have is goaltending, and you guys have Daniel, Hauser, and he's managed to put up I think he's 14-0 right now in net for you guys. So
he's the front runner for the Cy Young right now.
Yeah, exactly. So what has he kind of brought for you guys in terms of stability in net?
Yeah, Howie's something special. I think a lot of people take it for granted, how good he actually is, because I think he's only 5'10", 5'9". He's a small guy, but even in practice, the things like we find it hard to score on him. It's not just, he comes to playing games. He works really hard, and he's a great guy. We love hanging around him. He's a funny dude, and he works hard. Like I said, he's pretty dedicated to what he needs to do, and having him behind us, it's always maybe we're down or we're up by one goal. It's always a sigh of relief.
Conor, James Patrick is obviously the head coach of the Ice. Lengthy NHL career, lengthy time behind the bench now at the Western Hockey League level. How is his approach maybe, or how is his handling of you or treatment of the team sort of changed as you guys have begun to elevate your play and elevate your record over the last number of years?
Yeah, I think, I'll say one thing. I wouldn't be where I am without him. I think he's been a mentor to me in that way, and whether it's playing the right way or, just kind of how to handle adversity, I think he's really good with that kind of stuff. But, for our team, he's always pushing the pace. I think, it doesn't matter whether you're 14-1 or you're 1-14. I think, he takes it the same way. And I think that's what makes it so good is, every practice it's like, let's get your hard hats on and let's go to work. It's not about, let's have a fun day because we're 14-1. It's not about that. It's, he really pushes us. And I think that's what makes us so good, right? It's something that we all thrive for, and we all have the same common goal as well. So it kind of comprehends us pretty good.
Sorry, Az, where you going?
No, I can ask a question, Drew, but go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Conor, with obviously Connor Bedard is in town tonight and all the hype around him. Does that provide you guys, and it's a team game, so obviously one guy, isn't the determining factor, but does that provide you with maybe a little bit more motivation to say, hey, enough chat about him, or though, he gets his due props, but look at our team, look at our record, look what we've accomplished, maybe more eyeballs on us and a little less eyeballs on him.
Yeah, I think, you obviously got to take into consideration how good he is. Everyone's seen, what he can do with the puck and playing against him. It's, obviously he's the projected first overall pick for a reason. But again, I think, it's one of those things where I love, him coming into the building. I think it brings crowds to us, and it really goes to show that, we are a good team. Obviously, nothing towards to Connor Bedard. Like, he's a great player, but like you said, it's a team sport. I think we really have this down pat right now, and I think for the most part we're just focused on winning and trying to shut him down, because obviously he can win a game in a heartbeat.
You can show him who the better Conor is. That's okay. We have no problem with that. I wanted to ask you about Zach Benson, right? Because I think a lot of people don't realize that Zach is 17 years old. We should mention, Conor, you're only 18, and so. I mean, I think, that should be mentioned as well. But I was going to ask you, like, just back to what we were talking about with Matt Savoy, who you guys mentioned are very close. Like, is that something that you're relishing this year? Like, he's going through kind of the same thing, right? Because he's a projected top 10 pick. And I imagine that you guys keep a little bit of an eye on that type of stuff. But your focus is obviously on the ice and how your game and how your team's game is improving. So has that been something that you've liked this year, that kind of, with Zach, you're kind of just bringing him along, and he obviously is having a great season for the Ice as well. But is that something that you guys have talked about, just kind of the same sort of things that you've gone through with being projected first round picks last year?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think Benny, doesn't get enough recognition, in my opinion. I think I've played with him for 4 years now. Since we were 15 and 16, and he's been a special player ever since. We always knew he was going to be that good. I think when it comes down to it, he comes to us if he needs to. We're not gonna, barge in on his business. I think, if he wants to talk about all this team, what are they going to ask at dinner or something like that, I think me and Sav have the answer. But, we're kind of just there. We're not going to, tell them what to say and how to do things. We just we're there for support and more or less kind of have fun with it. That's all we said, is just kind of stay in the moment. It's a pretty cool experience. You'll never have it again, right? So it's, we try and do that for him a little bit. Obviously he picks and chooses whether he listens to us. But no, he's an awesome guy. He's a great kid. I love playing with him, and, I'd say we have a pretty good relationship too.
The Winnipeg Ice are 19-1. Conor Geekie is one of the driving forces of that success. They're in action tonight against the Regina Pats at Wayne Fleming Arena. Conor, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us right after you got off the ice for your morning skate. Continued success to you and your teammates, and we'll keep track and be in touch again real soon. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
There he goes, Conor Geekie.
Thanks,
joining
Conor.
us this morning here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.